What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate. Today, welcome to my channel and welcome to my week 4 takeaways. It was another busy week of college football action and a lot of surprising results happened this week and a ton of really big, important games. And we're going to break it down all here in this video by telling you the top 5 things that I learned from this past week. And hey, if you have any other takeaways, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. But I want to say thank you so much for simply watching this video. It really does help support me in any way you can, and please continue to help support the channel in any way you can. I really appreciate all the support I have gotten up to this point, and we're so close to 2,500 subscribers. Let's get there. If you're as big of a college football nerd as I am, you're going to want to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. Again, continue to watch my videos and like, comment, share, anything else you do to interact with the channel does help support what I do here on YouTube. But if you want to support me outside of YouTube, well, you can go give me a follow on Twitter at TailgateNate29. I post things about articles I write and games I call and everything else I do here on campus as a sports media student in my journey to be a sports media professional. I'd really appreciate anything any amount of support that I'm able to get. Well, let's now go ahead, dive on in, talking about things that happened here in week number 4 of the college football season. Guys, we are almost a third of the way done with the college football season. It has gone by way too fast. Way too fast. But my first big takeaway, you guys know I love to show love to the group of 5. And, well, the group of 5 race might be more than wide open. And I'm talking about, like, expand the horizons, pick someone. Because at this point, there are so many group of 5 teams that you could throw into this thing. It is insane. I want to start with obviously one of the biggest results that happened this past week, the 70-50 beatdown in Chapel Hill. I mean, James Madison absolutely took it to the North Carolina Tar Heels. I mean, just a sloppy performance from North Carolina. James Madison able to take full advantage of it. And how about Alonzo Barnett? Are you kidding me? 7 total touchdowns, 5 through the air, 2 on the ground. Look, we've been talking about teams this entire year like Tulane, like Boise State, like Memphis, who we're going to talk about in a little bit, like South Florida even, like UNLV, and maybe as of late Northern Illinois, even a team like App State or Texas State. Well, Texas State already has a loss there on the schedule. App State just got their doors blown off by South Alabama this past week. Where's the conversation been about James Madison? And myself included in that, I kind of, again, shame on me. Boo, you didn't pay attention to James Madison. Yeah, this group of 5 race, guys, is very interesting. And I mentioned Memphis earlier. Well, they just lost. A lot of people's front runners because Boise State had a loss. Memphis beat a Power 4 team in Florida State. We know the problems with Florida State there, but that's still a Power 4 win. Memphis was looking good. A lot of people ranked Memphis, didn't rank Boise State. A lot of people ranked Northern Illinois, didn't rank Boise State. Well, I mean, you even take a look at Northern Illinois just lost this week. Memphis just lost to Navy. And right now, Navy and Army both look really freaking good, y'all. And even though South Florida has 2 losses, I mean, South Florida is still there. I mean, I could sit here and talk about any number of teams throughout the group of 5 realm that I think have a case to get into the college football playoff. James Madison does, Navy does, Army does, Tulane, even with the 2 losses, does, even Memphis still does. Maybe you pull a team out of the Mid-American Conference, UNLV. I mean, there's just so many teams that you can sit here and talk about. At the end of the day, possibly getting that spot in the college football playoff. Now, according to the latest AP poll, Boise State does have that spot as of right now, which, again, is what I've said all preseason and all season long. I think Boise State is the best group of 5 team. They're the only group of 5 team ranked right now because Northern Illinois did lose, and of course, Boise State's only lost to a top 10 team in that of Oregon. But I mean, go watch some of these group of 5 teams, guys. Some of these teams are really good. They're really fun to watch. Guys, this group of 5 race, yes, we're going to have teams sort of limit themselves out and sort of weed themselves out, right? But overall, I think this group of 5 race is going to be as intriguing as some of the playoff races that we are going to see, right? Especially some teams that are ranked a little bit lower in that top 25, trying to make their case to get into the college football playoff. The G5 race, guys, is going to be absolutely fascinating. That is one big takeaway that I had from this past week if you didn't already believe that. Number 4, guys, I want to talk about the Illinois Fighting Illini for just a second, because last week I sort of talked about how there were a couple sleepers in big-time conferences emerging, right? I talked about Indiana in the Big Ten. I talked about how South Carolina, maybe even Kentucky, can play a little bit of spoiler there in the SEC, so on and so forth. You could even throw Vandy into that mix now. I mean, they have already beat a Virginia Tech team that I know just lost to Rutgers at home. Virginia Tech might not be as good, but then Vandy just went and pushed Missouri. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. Vandy just pushed Missouri to the absolute brink. Well, Illinois, even though Kansas might not end up that great this year, has that win against the Power 4 program in non-conference, and through all the penalties and hardships that Nebraska had in that game, Illinois coming out of Lincoln on a Friday night in a packed house with a big road win. I mean, that is absolutely massive for them. And you look at who Illinois still has to play on the schedule here, guys. Give me one hot second. A couple off top, I want to say it in sequential order, which is why I'm saying give me a second. I'm pulling up their schedule right now, but they have a lot of really big time games. And I guess before we dive into that, I mean, it was a thrilling game against the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Yes, the Cornhuskers have some work to do, but they can absolutely still be there in the Big Ten at the end of the day. Can Nebraska? But Illinois, guys, I mean, just you listen to some of these games coming up here. They have a road game against Penn State this week. That's the primetime NBC game. You got Purdue in a couple weeks after a bye week after Penn State. Then you get Michigan at home, a chance to spoil them. You have to go on the road to play Oregon, and then Minnesota, Michigan State, Rutgers, Northwestern. But you have Penn State, you have Michigan, you have Oregon on the schedule. Guys, I think this Illinois team is legit, and they have a chance to pull off an upset against any one of those teams. Now, if you want me to pick the game that I think is most likely to be an upset, probably going to end up being that Michigan game, and we're going to talk about Michigan later on in this video. But you have to go on the road to play Penn State. That's going to be tough. We've seen Illinois win there before, though. I believe it was a couple years ago, that like 9 overtime game, something crazy like that. Could they go on the road and beat Oregon? I mean, potentially if Oregon doesn't have the best game, but again, Oregon is starting to round themselves in the form right now. But the point being, I thought Illinois played really, really well in that game. That defense is legit. Brett Bielema's really turned this team around. And Luke Altmaier, I don't know how I've gone this long when talking about Illinois without mentioning his name. That was the big question mark coming into this year. Was Luke Altmaier going to be a different quarterback? Was he going to limit the picks? Was his decision-making going to be better? All of that is true. Luke Altmaier has been a fantastic quarterback for Illinois so far this season. They have some really good wide receiving weapons. The run game is going strong for the Illini, and again, as I just said a little bit ago, that defense is legit, man. They are going to push a lot of the big-time games they have coming up in this middle section here of the schedule. Again, guys, their next 4 games on the road against Penn State, Purdue, Michigan, both those are at home, and then on the road against the Oregon Ducks. Those are going to be 3 games right there, minus the Purdue game. Purdue probably not that great this year. Penn State, Michigan, Oregon. Those are 3 teams that Illinois, no matter if they're ranked or not, are going to be ranked when Illinois has to play them. This is a team that I really feel like, guys, can be a Big Ten spoiler. Now, again, you still got to watch out for Rutgers and Indiana and all of those teams, right? But the team that I have the biggest eye on out of the Big Ten right now is this Illinois team coached by Brett Bielema. Let's go ahead and move on to my number 3 takeaway, and I want to talk about Utah. And no, I don't just want to talk about the Utah Utes, because I want to talk about the BYU Cougars as well, guys. The Big 12, as of right now, seems like it's going to run through Utah. Again, not just this Utah Utes team, but through the state of Utah. And this coveted, highly intense matchup is now a Big 12 conference game that we're going to get in November, and I can't wait to watch these 2 teams go at it. But let's start with the Utah Utes, one of the biggest games of the weekend coming into week 4. And I mean, Utah just really happened to sort of beat Oklahoma State in every facet of the game. Even without Cam Rising, they had 456 yards of offense. They dominated this Oklahoma State defensive front. They had almost 250 rushing yards here in this game. Utah's defense didn't allow anything at all. I mean, Alan Bowman only went 19 of 44. At least that is Oklahoma State's full the passing stats. Alan Bowman went 16 of 33, 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions there in that game. But overall, the Oklahoma State passing attack, guys, 19 of 44. They only allowed Ollie Gordon to get 42 yards on 11 carries as a whole, 3.2 yards per carry to that Oklahoma State rush offense. And yeah, Oklahoma State was able to score some points. They were able to make it close late. But without Cam Rising, Utah to go on the road in Stillwater on a very, very hot day, by the way. The field temperature was close to 150 degrees. It was 100 in Stillwater. For them to do that and to pick up that road win in their first Big 12 conference game, I know they already played Baylor, but that's counted as a non-conference game. For them to do that, that was a really big spot for that team, and that was a huge, huge, huge road win that the Utes picked up in Stillwater, but probably not the biggest storyline from the Big 12 this week, because how about those BYU Cougars, man? A 38-9 beatdown over the Kansas State Wildcats. Kansas State, I think, is going to be fine. Again, they have a couple things there to figure out. Most notably, you definitely need Avery Johnson to be better. He has been, for lack of better terminology, pretty disappointing throughout the first 4 games here of the season. You thought that you were getting a really special quarterback, and you still are. Look, I have full confidence in Avery Johnson. I still think he's going to be able to be a really good player for him. He's just got to step up his game at the quarterback position. But let's talk about BYU, man. Jake Retzlaff, the stat line is not going to blow you away, but 15 of 21, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was really, really, really good. And I mean, come on, guys. We have to talk about the play, right? We have to talk about the play where Parker Kingston just had that ball get by him. It looked like it was going to be disaster for BYU. He picked it up, reversed his field, and ran it all the way home. It, I think, counted as a 90-yard punt return touchdown. That dude probably ran 120 yards on that play, and I mean, you saw him getting oxygen and taking breathers there on the sideline. What a play, what a game, and what 2 incredible teams we have here. And again, guys, I can absolutely not wait to watch Utah and BYU play this season. But guys, the way it's shaping up to be right now, the Big 12 is running through the state of Utah. Let's move on here to the 2 biggest games this weekend in most people's humble opinions. Michigan, let's start out with this one. They remain alive, and I say they remain alive because it was a little bit of a question on what Michigan was going to be able to do if they lost this one to USC, if they were going to be able to rebound. You still have games against Oregon and Ohio State coming up, right? Well, what Michigan did is they just proved exactly what helped them win the national championship game last year. USC is an improved team this year, especially on the defensive end, right? That defense is better. But there are still some questions for USC defensively because Michigan, I mean, look, you go back and take a look there in that game. They did make the switch over to Alex Orji to play quarterback for them here. But, I mean, Alex Orji, guys, only threw 12 passes, was only 7 of 12 for 32 yards. That's one of the lowest passing totals in a game in Michigan football history. A 26.7 QBR, not good at all from Alex Orji, but this team ran the ball 46 times for 290 yards, 3 touchdowns. Kalel Mullings was absolutely ridiculous in this game, shaking off tackles, ended up getting the big touchdown to help them win this thing. This Michigan team just proved that, hey, this is our game plan, right? We are more physically tough than you. We are going to beat you at the line of scrimmage, and that is that. That is exactly how Michigan won that game. But I say there are still some questions because, look, I'm not going to doubt Michigan anymore, right? What they did in that game with that game plan, is it going to work against USC if they have film on it? Maybe not. Is it going to work against Oregon and Ohio State later this year? I'm going to go out on a limb and also say probably not. But the way that Michigan was able to string things together to win this game, you had the Will Johnson pick 6 in there as well. At least I believe it was Will Johnson that ended up running that thing back. I'm going to fact check that before I get flamed by Michigan fans, which I probably will anyway. Yes, it was Will Johnson. There we go. My memory is worth its weight in gold. Not really. But this is a Michigan team, man. Look, Kalel Mullings might be better than Donovan Edwards this season. I said it. Okay? And Donovan Edwards still had himself a really good game in this game there as well. Alex Orji switching the quarterback. Can they get the pass game going? Because when you go up against a team like Oregon, Ohio State, you're going to need to make some passes down the field. And I know they didn't have Colston Loveland in this game either, but that's just another thing you can add on top of it, right? It's just the way Michigan was able to win this game really, really impressed me. Again, still some question marks here for this team, but Michigan is just reminding the nation, don't sleep on us. We are still a team to watch out for in the national championship conversation. But again, guys, my number one takeaway, and I'm not going to linger on this one for too long, guys, but if you didn't believe it after that NC State win, because NC State's had a lot of problems recently, they have some things to work out. They just got beat by Clemson, and I mean beat down by Clemson. If you didn't believe it before, you better believe it now, because Tennessee is a legitimate national championship contender. They are probably going to be in the college football playoff, and the Tennessee Volunteers are going to be a threat to go compete against any of the big boys, right? They are going to be a threat to go compete against Georgia or Ohio State or Texas or Alabama or Ole Miss. This Tennessee team is legit. Nico Iamaleava and this offense, I mean, guys, where do I even start? They are absolutely sensational, and I know they didn't have the cleanest game here against the Oklahoma Sooners, but they controlled this game from start to finish, man. That Tennessee defense forced 3 turnovers. They forced Jackson Arnold to hit the bench, guys. And again, you know my opinion on Jackson Arnold. I think he's a pretty darn good quarterback, but only 16 first downs for the Oklahoma Sooners, which actually was more than what Tennessee needed. But Tennessee doesn't need a lot of first downs when you have the explosive play bug, right? 3 of 15 on third down, 222 yards, only 36 yards on the ground. That's it, guys. That's all Oklahoma was able to do here. Again, their pass game wasn't even that strong either. I said this after the NC State game, right? We knew this offense was going to be great. If Nico lived up to the hype, there were too many weapons for this offense to not be great, right? We know this offense has what it takes to compete with everybody across the entire nation. The defense was what you had a lot of questions about coming into this season. I think they've proved themselves pretty darn well here, guys. Pretty darn well. Guys, this defense is legit. This team is legit. Tennessee is going to be competing for a national championship. And when Tennessee makes the college football playoff, if you have to play this Volunteer team, I would be very, very scared if I was that fan base here. Hopefully they don't run on into my Buckeyes. But hey, guys, let me know if you have any other takeaways from this week. It was a crazy week. There was a lot that happened, but those are my top 4 takeaways, or top 5 takeaways from week 4 in the college football season. Hey, remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I will see all of you guys in the next video. Goodbye.